welcome to your Circulation Hub. So today we are going to start with the third part of the chapter Life Process from class 10 Cbse, which is transportation. So this is your master teacher SUVOPRIYO. So let's start with the chapter. So if you have ever downloaded a Telegram app from Play Store or iOS, then join our Telegram channel. All kinds of PDFs, notes, workbooks, tests will be uploaded in this channel itself, and the link of our Telegram channel is being given in the description box below. So join the channel as soon as possible. So what is the transportation in human beings? Now, what is the transportation that occurs in human beings? So let's start with ourselves only. How the transportation of food, water, different kinds of enzymes, chemicals from one cell to another cell, from one part of the body to another part of the body. So let's discuss with it. So the different things like food, oxygen, and the waste materials that is being produced from each part of our body, that is totally responsible for blood. Now blood is totally responsible for it to carry all the food particles, to carry the oxygen, and as well as to carry the waste materials from different parts of our body to various places. Now, let's read what it defines. Now, the blood is responsible to transport the food, oxygen, and waste materials in human bodies. So, this only we have now discussed that blood is simply responsible to transport all kinds of food, oxygen, waste materials in our human bodies. Now, blood usually consisting of a fluid medium known as plasma, where the cells remain suspended. Now, blood is usually consisting of a fluid basically known as plasma, and where the cells remain suspended. Now, the plasma is responsible to transport food, carbon dioxide, and nitrogenous waste in dissolved form. Now, plasma is deliberately responsible for the transportation of food, carbon dioxide, and nitrogenous waste in dissolved form. However, oxygen is carried by the red blood cells. Now, oxygen is carried by the red blood cells because the red blood cells is having a component called hemoglobin, and they have in to carry the oxygen. Now, many other substances such as salts are also being transported by the blood itself. Now, substances like salts are also being transported by the blood only. So this is what the transportation in human beings. We will be discussing about each and every part of which are being engaged in the transportation of human beings, which are being engaged for our survival, for the transporting of various substances to each and every part of our body. So hope you have understood the transportation in human beings. So let's move to the next slide. So the what is our heart? Now our heart, what it is doing, what is it is composed of? What is the basic function of our heart? Is the heart very much important for our body? So all these questions we will be answering in this slide itself. So let's read what it defines. So the human heart is one of the most important organs responsible for sustaining life. Now it is a muscular organ with four chambers. The size of the heart is the size of our clenched fist. So if you have ever want to measure your heart, if you want to know what is the size of our heart, so you can always uh, know your heart's size by your clenched fist. Now the size of the clenched fist is the size of our heart itself. Now, heart is basically is a muscular organ which is having four chambers. Now, four chamber, the number of chambers varies from one organism to another organism. Like in the human beings, these are having four chambers. Now, in other organisms, there are three chambers. There are two chamber organism. There are also one chambered organism as well. Now, depending the number of chambers, the various kind of organism are being made on that basis only. Now, because the heart, why there are four chambers in our heart? Because the more energy we need to move. Now, that's why the heart needs more pressure, needs more energy, needs that kind of strength so that it can circulate and it can pump the blood as fast as it can possible, so that we can get the oxygenated blood to all the parts of our body. In response to that, the our all the body parts will be equally being strong and will be helping us for our survival. Now, the human heart functions throughout a person's lifespan. So, a human heart is the one substance, is a part that is working throughout a person's lifespan and is one of the most robust and hardest working muscles in the human body. Now, leaving all the muscles, the muscles which are being specially given to heart, so they are the robust and the most strongest and hardest muscles. So these heart is continuing with us till we are being able to survive on this earth. Now, besides humans, most of the other animals also possess a heart that pumps the blood throughout their body. Now, beside human beings, most of the other animals also possess a heart that pumps the blood. Not only human beings, there are other organisms that also need the blood to be getting pumped inside their body so that the blood can be transferred to all the parts of their body. Now, even invertebrates like grasshoppers possess a heart-like pumping organ, but they do not function the same as a human heart does. So, heart is also being present in insects like grasshoppers as well. But then the function that our heart plays is not similar to the role play of the heart of the grasshopper. Now, the heart of our body is playing a very much vital role. Like this vital role, no other heart is being doing in the other organisms. So, our heart is very much crucial for our human body, and it is also a part which is helping for our survival on this earth. So this is what our heart was. So hope you have understood what our heart is and what is being it is composed of, and we will be discussing about our heart, the functions of our heart in the following lecture itself. So this is the detailed structure of the heart. Take a snapshot of it. You will be needing in the exam purposes, because sometimes exams used to ask to draw the structure of the heart. So have a screenshot of it, it will be helping you. So this is how the blood is to come inside the heart, gets pumped and again moves out of the heart, then the deoxygenated blood again moves inside the heart, gets pumped once again, and then the heart, then the deoxygenated blood used to move, physically it used to get cycles, and then the carbon dioxide used to move out, and our nose used to leave out the carbon dioxide, and again oxygen comes in, the blood gets purely oxidized, means they get oxygenated, and then it again circulates. Now there are different parts we need to know very um, means we need to know very carefully, because they will be helping for our exam purposes, is very much important. Now we were having the from upper body. So this is the upper body. Now this is the superior vena cava. Now two right lung. Then the superior node. These yellow structures. Now from right lung, the pulmonary veins. These are the pulmonary veins, and this is the atrioventricular node, right atrium, tricuspid valve, and then right ventricle, inferior vena cava. This is the lower body. From lower body, and this is two lower body, and then this is the two upper body, and these are the arteries, aorta, pulmonary artery, two left lung, from left lung, pulmonary veins, left atrium, mitral or bicuspid valve, and then left ventricle, Purkinje fibers, septum, aorta. Now there are some important things that we need to know about the structure of the heart, that arteries are being made in our body to carry on the oxygenated blood, and veins are being made in our body to carry the deoxygenated blood. Now, what is the role of pulmonary vein and what is the role of pulmonary artery? What is the specialty about this pulmonary? why the name has been given to them. Now, pulmonary vein is having an exceptional case. The pulmonary vein is carrying the oxygenated, and the pulmonary artery is carrying the just the opposite of it. And then there, the oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood is being divided by septum, and then there are the blood is the oxygen is being getting from left lung and then from right lung, so that the oxygen deoxygenated blood can move to right lung. This is the total structure of the heart. Hope you have taken the screenshot. We will be discussing about the functions of the heart as well. So let's move to the next slide. This is the functioning of our heart. This is the first part. We will be discussing in the next part in this lecture itself in the next slide only. So this is the first part of the functioning of our heart. So the heart plays a key role in the circulation of the blood and maintaining the mechanism of the whole body. It is the most vital organ of the human body. And the heart plays a very important key role, and it is helping to circulate of the blood and maintaining the mechanism of the whole body. Now this is helping the mechanism for the whole body, and it is a vital organ of the human body. Now the heart performs the functions as the following important functions. The primary function of the heart is to pump the blood throughout the body, so that the heart can pump the blood throughout the body, each and every part of the body. Now it supplies oxygen and nutrients to tissues and removes the carbon dioxide and waste from the blood. Now this also helps in the heart also helps in supplying the oxygen and nutrients to the tissues and removes all kinds of carbon dioxide and waste from the blood. It also helps to maintain the adequate blood pressure throughout our body. Now it also helps in the adequate blood pressure which is being occurring and throughout the body this is occurring. So this image, which is a detailed structure, so you can observe that the blue structures as the deoxygenated blood, and the red structure is the oxygenated blood, which is getting circulated within all parts of the heart. So this is the first part. And what are the basic functions? So the primary function is to pump the blood. Just to pump the blood is the primary function. Then it supplies oxygen. Oxygenated blood it prepares, and it used to circulate the blood to each and every part of the body. And then as a result, the cells of the different parts of our body is giving out a wastage product, which is carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide is again being carried on by the blood itself, and the blood in return moves to the heart itself, and the heart again pumps the blood and makes that blood which is carrying the waste products to oxygenated blood by mixing with it with oxygen and the carbon dioxide the heart used to take out from the blood itself and used to remove it through our nose. Now it also helps to maintain the adequate blood pressure. Now this, for example, if our heart was like a heart in the grasshopper, then the heart would not be playing such an important role play, and the heart or for which the blood pressure in our hands would be much higher, and the legs of the blood pressure in our legs would be much lower. But that is not there in our body, because our heart is the most vital, and our heart is playing the most vital role play in our body, and for which the adequate blood pressure is equal to each and every part of our body. There is an adequate blood pressure itself, so that each and every part of our body is having. So this is the functioning of our heart. So this is the first part. So let's move to the next slide. There is a second part of the functioning of our heart. The arteries used to receive the oxygenated blood from the heart and supply it throughout the body, whereas the veins used to carry the deoxygenated blood from all the body parts of the heart for oxygenation. Now, what arteries are doing? Now, arteries are they are basically receiving the oxygenated blood. While we are being showing you with the detailed structure of heart only, we have said this, and then it is supplying the oxygenated blood throughout the body. Now each and every part is being delivered with oxygen by the arteries itself. Now whereas the veins carry the deoxygenated blood, now the veins used to carry the deoxygenated blood from all the parts of the heart for the oxygenation. Now this deoxygenated blood is being carried on to each and every part of the heart for getting oxygenated. Now the right atrium receives the blood from the veins and pumps it to the right ventricle, and then The right atrium used to receive, basically they used to receive the blood from the veins and they used to pump it to the right ventricle. Now the right ventricle pumps the blood received from the right atrium to the lungs. Now the right ventricle pumps the blood which is received from the right atrium itself. Now then the left atrium is to receive the oxygenated blood and from the lungs and pumps it to the left ventricle. Now, the left ventricle, what the left ventricle is doing? It is doing the pumping of the oxygenated blood throughout the body. So, from here we can understand the left part of the heart is basically taking care of the oxygenated blood, and the right part of the heart is basically taking the care of the uh, deoxygenated blood. Now, there we have understood about the two parts, which is one is called the atrium and one is ventricle. So, the left atrium and left ventricle takes the takes the duty of looking after the oxygenated blood, and the right atrium and the right ventricle takes the duty of taking the deoxygenated blood. So, with this slide is very much important from your exam point of view. You should understand and you should be memorizing, not memorizing, you should be understanding the conceptual conditions which is being occurring in the heart. Don't try to memorize it. It will be occurring some comments. It will cause confusion within you because from which part the oxygenated blood is going on, from which part oxygen blood is leaving the heart. It will be causing you confusions. So don't try to means just don't try to memorize from just to have good marks in the exam, but then you need to understand it, and for which you will be just you need to look after this video as much as you can and take you need to take the notes and take the mind map within your brain, and for which it would be very easier. Heart is very much simple concept, and this for this you don't need to waste much time if you understand at one turn only. If you can't understand in one turn, then try to understand as much turns as you can by looking at these videos, and for which you will be able to understand. So this is the total functioning of our heart, and hope you have understood about it, about the detailed functions of left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, right ventricle. Then we have also discussed about the previous slide. We have also discussed about the important role play and the primary role play that is being done by the heart itself. And here also we discussed about the arteries and veins. So hope you have understood the functioning of our heart. So let's move to the next slide. So let's discuss what is circulatory system. While we are discussing the transportation, we need to know about circulatory system as well. But so let's know about what is circulatory system. So circulatory system is responsible for the transport of various substances in human beings. So to transportation of various substances in human beings is very much important. So for which it is composed so that total circulation is being done by these um, important categories. So heart, we have now only discussed the detailed function and structure and detailing of the heart. We have done now only. Then we are having arteries. We will be discussing now in the next slides. Upcoming slides we will be discussing about arteries, veins, and blood capillaries. Now the blood plays a role of the carrier substances as well. Now, types of circulatory system. There are two important types of circulatory system. There are more important types of circulatory system as well. But then, in this class, we will be learning about these two circulatory system. One is single circulation and one is double circulation. Now, we will be discussing about the single circulation and double circulation. Now, just for a brief, we are discussing in short and giving a basic concept about the single circulation and double circulation. In single circulation, this kind of circulation is only occurring in the fishes, organisms like fishes. In these organisms, only one circulation occurs. What circulation? The oxygenated blood moves all the parts of the body, and then it carries all the deoxygenated, it becomes deoxygenated, and that deoxygenated blood again comes to the heart and it releases the carbon dioxide, and again it takes the oxygenated oxygen and gets the blood to be oxygenated, and again it moves to all the parts of the body. So this process, this circulation is basically the single circulation. Now what is double circulation? Means the blood which is being passing is getting passing twice, it is being passing through the heart. One through by the oxygenated in form and one in deoxygenated in form. So these double procedures are helping and forming as the double circulation, and this double circulation occurs in only in complex life of living beings, which is human beings. So this is what the basic concept of a single circulation and double circulation now only I give, and this is the what the circulatory system means. So we have discussed the heart, and we will be discussing the arteries, veins, and blood capillaries in the upcoming slides only. So let's move to the next slide and discuss about single circulation and double circulation in detail. So, single circulation. Now, the type of circulatory system that occurs in fishes. Now, only we have discussed, in which the blood passes once through the heart in each complete circulation of the body. Now, only once the heart used to have a circular, means only once the blood is to moves through the heart for a complete circulation, and that is being passed throughout the body, in which it reaches to each and every part of the heart compared to the double circulation, by which it reaches to each and every part. Now the blood used to only single time is used to covering the as covering the whole body as well as the heart, and it is getting again oxygenated, and again it is doing the same procedure. So this is basically the single circulation, and in one circulation itself it is covering the all the parts of the body of a organism like fish. So this is the image of the dangerous fish organism, which is the piranha. Hope you have understood about it by seeing it at its first view only. But this is the but other than this is the basic and the most important. Hope you have taken the screenshot of it as well. So this is basically the process. What is the process? Now these are the gill capillaries. This is the capillaries we would be discussing in the upcoming slides only. And this is the artery taking the oxygenated blood, and then again only one circulation is only occurring. So this is a single circulation that is occurring only in fishes, because because the kind of energy needed for a fish is not much like a organism which is complex in nature like human beings. So only one circulation is very much better for an organism like fish. So that's why single circulation is occurring in fishes. Now, this is what single circulation is, and we have discussed the single circulation, and this is the basic diagram of the single circulation. So, hope you have understood what is single circulation, and take a snapshot of it. It will be helping you from your exam purposes. So, let's move to the next slide. So this is what is double circulation. Now double circulation. So this is the circulation which is occurring in human beings, in us. Now the heart is a key organ for the blood circulation, and the double circulation is an efficient way of circulation, as it provides an effective way of circulation, and the main difference is that the blood follows two routes, one for oxygenated blood and the other for the deoxygenated blood, and hence the name of the oxygenated blood means that this total process is known as a double circulation. Now let's uh, take the concepts from these slide itself. So what is the heart is a key organ. It is an important key organ which is doing this blood circulation and the double circulation itself, and it is an efficient way for the circulation which is helping in an effective manner for the circulation, so that the all the parts of our body gets equally the usage of the oxygen and the usage of the nutrients from the food, and so that the waste materials also comes up from each and every part of our body, so that each and every part should be getting the energy and should be working as a normal for the human beings to survive. And then there are two routes. Main difference is that there follows two routes, one for the oxygenated blood and the other for the deoxygenated blood. And hence the name double circulation. The majority of the mammals, including the humans, utilize a double circulatory system. Now basically what is happening, so this is what is happening now. This lungs are is giving the oxygenated, and this oxygenated blood is moving to the basically it's moving to the circulation, and then it is going inside, and then it is going to the heart, and then from the left atrium it is moving again back to the blood tissues it is meeting with, and to each and every part of our body. Then again it is getting deoxygenated. So from here only it is getting deoxygenated. From here it is moving through vena cava, and then from the right ventricle it is being reaching, and then from the right ventricle it is being moving, and then it is being moving through the pulmonary artery, which is exceptional. Pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein is exception of the community called artery and community called vein. So this is moving to the lungs, and this is causing the total double circulation. So hope you have understood the double circulation. Take a snapshot of it. It is much more important than single circulation from the exam point of view. Hope you have taken the snapshot of it. We have been discussing about it through the function of the double circulation as well as through the detailed diagram as well. Take a snapshot of it. It will be helping by the diagram as well as from the definitions. So we have understood what is double circulation. So let's move to the next slide. So what is blood pressure? Now blood pressure is a serious health problem which affects nearly 40 to 50% of the total population. Now blood pressure is a serious health problem which is occurring nearly to about 40 to 50% of the total population on this earth. Now blood is a fluid connective tissue. We all know about it, and then which is carried to all the parts of our body with the help of arteries. Now, blood is a fluid connective tissue, which is helping to connect with each and every tissue in our body, and which is also helping providing an important role by helping the arteries to work by carrying the oxygenated blood, nutrients from food to each and every part of the body, and in return, it is carrying the waste products from each and every part of the body, and it is getting the wasted part, waste materials are getting means they are being thrown out from the body. So the blood pressure is a force of blood. So it is a kind of force against the arteries. Now arteries are basically the vessels, blood vessels. So through which the blood used to move. Now the kind of pressure which is occurring within it is basically the blood pressure. Now if the pressure of an individual is from 90 to 120 or 60 to 80 mm Hg, Hg we are measuring, this is hydrogram basically, and this is basically the mercury. Mercury is better for measuring the blood. I mean, it is very much measuring for the for our body. It is very much easier for understand because it takes a temperature and it conducts a temperature basically. So that's why. And then this is the what it is happening, and against the and this is a normal blood pressure. The blood pressure means is basically is given by two numbers, which one is above or the one it is below, and this is 120 by 80 to 120 80.120, and this is called the systolic pressure, and 80 above is called basically called the diastolic pressure. So there are two kinds of blood pressure. One is called the systolic pressure, one is called the diastolic pressure. Know about these two concepts in a basic concept only. Don't move in depth because we will be discussing about it in your higher classes. So this is what the blood pressure. Most of the people in our country, or not in our country, in the whole world only, they are been facing the problem with blood pressure. Now, blood pressure basically occurs due to the factors which like cholesterol. Due to cholesterol, also the blood pressure decreases. Like chronic diseases like sugar and like other kinds of diseases. It's not a disease, but a kind of disease which is occurring in our body, for which those kinds of problems in our human bodies, for which the blood pressure basically occurs. Now, if the blood pressure is too high, we will be feeling too much hot, and basically we will be feeling too much warmer, and for which we would be needing to be owning our ACs or fans in times of winter seasons as well, because our body is getting too much being sweated. We are too much getting sweated. But if we are having low pressure, then suddenly we will be getting fainted. Suddenly we will be getting means just for any cases we will be getting fainted. So that's also not good. Now high blood pressure is also not good. It would be causing more problem in our body. If there is a person who is having high blood pressure, he would be getting anger at different times only, at a small situation only. He would be getting anger at he would be needing cool temperatures to be living with. So these are the problems with high blood pressure and the low blood pressure. So all human beings should be having a medium blood pressure. That would be helping a person to be living on this earth. So this is what is blood pressure. We have also discussed the ill effects of the high blood pressure as well as with the low blood pressure. So hope you have understood about the different kinds of blood pressure. So let's move to the next slide. So this is what the instrument by which we used to measure the blood pressure is a sphygmomanometer. A sphygmomanometer, earlier it was looking like this instrument, but now today we are getting the digitalized instrument. Now let's read what it defines. Now sphygmomanometer is an instrument, it's a kind of instrument in which we used to measure the blood pressure, which is also known as the blood pressure meter or blood pressure gauge or the blood pressure monitor. Now, basically, the in the primitive earlier kind of, and also the today the blood pressure we used to get in markets. The basically these wrappers which are being seen in back, they used to these wrappers are being wrapped over the muscles of our body, basically the biceps of our biceps. These wrappers are being worn out. This is done only in the aged people, but also there. But nowadays, as everybody is getting a problem with the blood pressure, everybody is being done with this blood pressure itself, and we used to measure it by pressing. In the earlier, we used to measure it by pressing this soft substance, and for which this used to create the pressure, and for which the this meter used to increases. But then that is only a sphygmomanometer, and then but nowadays the wrapper we used to wrap on over our biceps, and for which while pressing it, the machine this it automatically used to show the results. So this is what the working of the sphygmomanometer. We have discussed in that also in detail. But then the word sphygmomanometer is basically derived from the Greek word which is a smygmos, and which is meaning the beating of the heart. Now, is to beating of the heart, it is meaning or the pulse and the manometer, and mean the device used to measure the pressure or tension, the kind of pressure or the tension which is being occurring within the sphygmomanometer. Now, then this instrument was first invented by Samuel Siegfried Karl Ritter von Busch. So big name it is, and then is in the year of 1881. But in the year 1896, Seapoint Rivarocki introduced a simplified version of sphygmomanometer. Now, the first scientist, whose name was Samuel Siegfried Karl Ritter von Busch, he discovered a complex sphygmomanometer. But in the year 1896, Saffron Rivarocki, he discovered a simplified version of the sphygmomanometer. So this is what the sphygmomanometer we have discussed as working of the sphygmomanometer, and we have also discussed the two scientists who has helped us to use the sphygmomanometer today, and so we have also discussed the importance of the sphygmomanometer to measure the blood pressure. So hope you have understood the working of the sphygmomanometer. So let's move to the next slide. So let's start with the blood tubes vessels. Now the first one is artery. The next slide we will be showing with veins and then with the blood capillaries. So let's start with the arteries itself. So arteries carry blood away from the heart. Now arteries has a function and has a important role play. It used to carry the oxygenated blood to different parts of the body, and for which it used to carry the blood away from the heart after pumping. Now the pulmonary arteries transport the blood that has a low oxygen and content from the right ventricle of the lungs. Now pulmonary arteries transport the blood that has a low oxygen content. Now we have discussed earlier only that pulmonary arteries are the exceptions for the community called arteries, because they used to carry the blood which is having low content oxygen or the blood which is getting deoxygenated. Those blood the pulmonary artery used to carry from the right ventricle to the lungs. The systemic arteries transport oxygenated blood from the left ventricle to the body tissues. We have discussed earlier only the left part used to take care of the oxygenated blood and the right part is used to take care of the deoxygenated blood. And this left and right is being divided. That means the oxygenated blood and the deoxygenated blood content is being divided with a barrier called the septum, and which is used to carry, and these systematic arteries used to carry the oxygenated blood from the left ventricle, and then the blood is being pumped from the ventricles into large elastic arteries that branch repeatedly into smaller and smaller arteries until the branching results in microscopic arteries called the arterioles. Now, these are the smaller arteries until the branching results of in the microscopic arteries, which is called basically called as the arterioles, and the arterioles plays a very important vital role, and it is used to regulate the blood flow in the tissue capillaries. It is used to do the blood flow, regulate the blood flow in the tissue capillaries, and then about 10% of the total blood volume is in the systemic arterial system at any given time. Now, about 10% of the total volume of the blood volume is in the systematic arterial system at any given time. So this is the total concept of arteries. Hope you have taken a snapshot of it. It is also very much important from the exam point of view. If you don't understand what is artery, what are the functions of arteries, and you would be not be able to relate it with the functioning of the heart. So you need to understand the arteries very much in detail and in depth. So hope you have understood about the arteries. So let's move to the next slide. So this is the blood tube vessels called the veins. Now veins are basically the blood vessels which is to carry the deoxygenated blood or the lower oxygen content blood. So veins are thin tube-like elastic blood vessels used to present to the surface of the skin. We can see the veins from our naked eye itself because they are too much closer to our surface of the skin only. But the arteries are in depth of our body, so for which we cannot say because they used to carry the oxygenated blood. And if by any chance, if our arteries have been cut off, then we need to take as first procedure as we can take by taking the help of the nearest hospital or the nearest medical center, or else there would be a large chances of getting that because we by accidentally or by any kind of thing the arteries have been damaged. By any chance it can occur, but then we have to take the help as first, as soon as possible, or else there would be the death would be standing in front of us. That is something another case. But veins are very much present in over the body itself. Veins are also much important. If veins are also being cutted, but there would be not be such a consequence would will be created when arteries are being damaged, but veins gets produced as they are carrying the deoxygenated blood. But we need to also need to take care of these blood vessels as well. But then these translucent blood vessels are blue in color. They are basically blue in color and carry impure or deoxygenated blood from all parts of the body to heart. So if we are too much, what we say, if we are basically the white babies, if we are having a complexion of white, we would be able to understand the veins very clearly. So for which we would be able to see visually the types of veins which is being present just under the skin, and we would be able to understand. Now these blood vessels are with low pressure. They are having a low pressure and used to move in an upward direction. They used to move in the upward direction and used to move towards the heart. We have discussed in the previous blood vessel that it is moving away from the heart. This blood vessel is moving towards the heart. So tissues and other organs of the heart and compared to the arteries, veins are thin walled. They are thin walled. They are not that thick walled, but they are thin walled in nature. But then these from the cells, tissues and other organs. So they used to carry the deoxygenated blood or the less oxygen contained blood used to take from the different parts of the of our body. So this is the total concept of veins. Hope you have understood about the veins as well. These are also the very much important for the functioning of the heart. If you have not understood the arteries, veins, and also the upcoming, which is the blood capillaries, you would be not able to understand the working of the heart. So understand this very much clearly, and this will be helping from the exam point of view as well. So hope you have understood the concept of veins. So let's move to the next slide. This is the blood capillaries. The blood tube vessels, which is one of them, is the third type, which is the blood capillaries. So, short and tiny blood vessels found within the tissues, which are called the capillaries, they are very much short and they are tiny blood vessels, which are called the blood capillaries. The capillaries bring about the exchange of substances between the blood and tissues. Now, capillaries are basically present in different parts of our body, in front of the parts of our body, for which the different kinds of exchange of substances. Exchange of substances means the substances which has been carried by the blood and the tissues which are being demanding those substances. So that exchange is basically carried on by the capillaries, by the help of the capillaries. Now these blood vessels also function by connecting the arterial system of the venous system and helps in exchange of substances across the cells. Now, these blood vessels used to function by connecting to the arterial systems and to the venous system and helps in exchange of substances across the cells of our body. So, this is the total concept of the capillaries. Hope you have understood. We have discussed the structure of the capillaries. We have also discussed about how the capillaries work and where the capillaries are being present. And we have also discussed about the functioning of capillaries. So, hope you have understood the capillaries. Three important blood tube vessels we have till now we have been discussing. Understand these three very much clearly. It is very much important. I am repeating continuously. Hope you understood this. So let's move to the next slide. Take the screenshot of it of all three slides till now we have discussed about the blood tube vessels as well as the previous slides. They are very much important from the exam point of view. This part of the chapter is very much important. So learn it by heart and take the concepts by heart within you. So this is the maintenance by platelets. Now, platelets need to be maintained. Now, how these platelets are being maintained, the maintenance by platelets, how this is being done. This is not done by us from outside. Just we need to rub or used to rub those platelets by any kind of cloth to clean it or to just to look it better from the view. That is not like that. It is not. At least if you are thinking about that, it is not like that. Platelets get maintained by inside our body itself. So let's read what it defines. So platelets are the colorless tiny blood vessels without nucleus and circulate through the bloodstream. So platelets are the colorless. They are basically colorless. They do not have an identical color and they are tiny blood vessels, small blood vessels without nucleus. It doesn't contain any kind of nucleus. Now they used to circulate through the bloodstream. During any kind of injury, the blood bleeding needs to be minimized naturally. Now, yeah, when we used to ride a cycle for our first time, then after riding the cycle, taking all the balances, after releasing all the balances, for first 2 to 3 times we will be falling down to understand the balance of riding the cycle. And from at that time only we would be getting some bleeding would be occurring, some wounds would be occurring. So for which when blood comes out for a certain small time period, very small time period, the blood used to comes out. But after that, why the blood stops coming out? Why this is happening? This is the happening because of platelets. So platelets is helping to stop the bleeding and to stop the bleeding naturally, to minimize the bleeding. So this is done during an injury which is occurred over us. So these platelets are also getting damaged when we used to have a disease which is called as dengue. The platelets of our body starts to decrease, for which we need to take care while we are passing with the time when we are being affected by dengue, which is being carried on by the mosquitoes. We need to take care of at that times. because platelets are very much important. If platelets are getting damaged, then there will be no one to stop or no one to minimize the bleeding naturally, for which the total blood inside present inside our body will be getting drained out from our body, for which we will be getting died. So we need to take care about when we have been affected by any kind of diseases which is decreasing the level of the platelets in our body. Now, leakage of blood can also reduce the efficiency of the pumping system due to the loss of pressure. Now, leakage of the blood also reduces due to the efficiency which is occurred of the pumping system due to the loss of pressure, and platelet cells are present inside the body to plug the leaks and to stop bleeding by clotting the blood at the points of injury. Now, platelets are being present in each and every part of our body, and so that when any kind of bleeding occurs, then the to plug the leaks, to just to stop the bleeding and to clot over it, to clot, to make the surface which we are having when we are not being injured by any kind of outer circumstances. Now, platelets circulate around the body and clot the blood whenever, wherever required. Now, any position, whenever, wherever it requires, platelets used to show their functions by minimizing the bleeding. So, this is the whole concept of platelets. Hope you have understood about it. Take a snapshot of it. It is also very much important from the exam point of view. So let's move to the next slide. So this is the lymph, which is also very much important for the transportation in human beings. And lymph is another fluid involved in transportation. Like blood, lymph is also another fluid and which is involved in transportation. Now, some amount of plasma, proteins, blood cells escape into the intercellular spaces in the tissues to form lymph or tissue fluid. Now, lymph is another fluid which is involved in the transportation system in our body, and some amount of plasma, some amount of proteins as well as blood cells escape into the intercellular spaces in our tissues to form the lymph or tissue fluid. Now, lymph is similar to blood plasma. So, basically, lymph is very much similar to blood plasma but colorless and contains less protein. The amount of protein which is present within plasma is very much less in lymph, and the blood plasma is having a color but lymph is basically colorless. So, what are the composition by which lymph is being made up of? Basically, lymph is being made up of substances or components like water, solids, content like proteins. Three types of proteins are there, which is albumin, globulin, and fibrinogen. So these are the proteins which is being present inside the lymph, and substances like fats, carbohydrates, and other constituent substances like urea, creatinine, chlorides, inorganic phosphorus, calcium, enzymes, and antibodies are also being present within this lymph. So this is what the composition of lymph and what is the lymph. So hope you have understood the lymph. So let's move to the next slide and discuss about the function of the lymph. So this is the functioning of the lymph. So it used to supply the nutrition and the oxygen to those parts where blood cannot reach. Now it used to supply the nutrients to those parts where the blood cannot reach. Now there are many parts of in our body where the blood cannot reach. Now, the places where the blood can reach are in more in number, but the places where the blood cannot reach are very much less, for which in those cases only lymph are used to be very much important for the purpose called transportation, and it used to drain away the excess tissue fluids. It used to drain away the excess tissue fluids, and lymph in return proteins to the blood from the tissue spaces. in return the proteins, lymph used to return the proteins to the blood from the tissue species. Now fats from the intestine are also being absorbed through the lymph itself. Now fats are very much returned to the proteins to the blood from the tissue species itself. And fats from the intestine are also being absorbed by blood and through the lymph as well. So fats which are being the nutrients, not about fats, let the fats in another case. So nutrients which is being released from small intestine, it is being absorbed by blood. But then fats which is being produced from the intestine, fats are also being produced. So the fats which are being produced from the intestine, they are being absorbed through the lymph. And the lymphocytes and the monocytes of the lymph act as defensive cells of the body. They act as a very much defensive cells for the body, and lymph also removes the bacteria from the tissues. Now lymph, what lymph used to do? They used to remove the bacteria which is being presented inside a tissue. So this is the whole concept of the functioning of the lymph. Hope you have understood about it. Take a snapshot of it. This is the basic diagram of the lymph. So let's move to the next slide. So this is, we are starting with the new concept of transportation, which is the transportation in plants. Till now we have been discussing with the transportation in human bodies. So hope you have understood about that. And now we are going to start with a new, uh, not like a part of the transportation, which is in plants. How transportation occurs in plants. Now transportation is also vital in plants as well. The trees transport all the nutrients and water it needs for survival from its roots to the tips of the leaves. So trees, what trees used to do? They used to transport all the kinds of nutrients and they used to and water it needs for the survival from its roots. Now root used to take the water and nutrients and basically nutrients as minerals, water and minerals, and then these used to move to the tips of the leaves because the leaves are the food factory. They are used to prepare food for the plants. Now every component of the for the preparation of the food will be going to the kitchen only. So the as like that, the water and the minerals are also the components for the preparation of the food, and that's why it is moving to the leaves, the tips of the leaves. Now in the case of transportation of the implants, the biggest constraint in water as it ends up being a limiting factor in growth. Now to overcome this problem, trees and other plants have the perfect system for the transportation, for the absorption and translocation of the water. Now in case of the transportation in plants, biggest constraint is the water as it ends up being limiting factor in growth, as it is being ending up with the limiting, which is causing a limitation in the factor of growth. And then to overcome this problem, to overcome this means this condition, the trees, what trees and other plants are doing, they used to have perfect system which is called the absorption and translocation of water. Now the plants contain a first network of conducts, which is consisting of conduits, network of conduits, which is called the xylem and phloem. Now, what is the role play of xylem and phloem? We will be discussing in the next coming slides. And this is more like the circulatory system that transports blood through the human body. These are very much similar to the transportation system now only discussed in human beings, but not totally similar. But they are parts, they are being similar with it. Then similar to the circulatory system in humans, the xylem and the phloem tissues extend throughout the plant. Now similar to the circulatory system, the xylem and phloem are extended through all the parts of the plant, and these conducting tissues originate from the roots and move up through the trunks of the trees and later the branch of the branches and then branching even further to every leaf like the spider webs. Now, how the xylems are coming up? They used to start from the roots itself and they used to move all through the tree trunk and used to move to each and every leaves of the tree itself. So this is what the transportation in plants, how the transportation is very much important for the plants as well, like the animals. Till now we have discussed. So hope you have understood the transportation in plants and how it is being continued by two kinds of conduits, which is a xylem and phloem. We will be discussing about it in the following next slides. So hope you have understood the transportation in plants. So let's move to the next slide. So this is the first one, which is the xylem. So transportation of water. How transportation of water occurs in plants? So this is being done by the role play of xylem. So xylem is one of the important tissues of the vascular system of plants. Now they are the most important tissues for the vascular system of the plants, and the main system of this tissue is to transport the minerals and the water from the roots to carry them to other parts of the plant. So this is being done. They used to absorb the water and minerals that has been gathered by the roots, and they used to send to the different parts to different, not to different parts, to different leaves, into all the leaves which is being present in the plant. And then it has two separate chambers. One is called the tracheids and one is called the vessels for transporting of the minerals and water. So these are the two chambers in which the minerals and water are being transferred. One is tracheid, one is vessel. And the term xylem has been derived from Greek word. We have also shown you the Greek word, but that is xylon itself, and that is meaning wood. So this is the whole concept of xylem. Hope you have understood, and how xylem is able to transport the water, and how is it taking the water, how it is absorbing the water, and from whom it is absorbing the water. Hope you have understood all the answers of this question. So let's move to the next slide and discuss about the transportation of the food and other substances, which is being done by the phloem itself. So this is the transport of the food and other substances that is being done by the phloem itself. So what phloem is doing? Phloem is also important as a xylem tissues for the vascular system of the plants. And the main activity of this tissue is to transport the nutrients and the food from the leaves to the growing parts of the plants. Now the phloem, what the phloem is doing, they used to important as the xylem tissues for the vascular system of plants. The main activity of this tissue is used to transport the nutrients and the food from the leaves to other growing parts of the plant. So it used to try to send to all the parts of the plant with the transport of the nutrients. We used to transfer the nutrients and food to the different growing parts of the plant. Now phloem is the only one to help in growing, to help to the growth of the plant by sending the nutrients to it. Without the nutrients, the different parts by which we can see the growth, we cannot be able to see in the plant which is going to be occurring. So that's why phloem also helps in the growth of the plant as well by transporting the nutrients and food. Now term phloem is being derived from the Greek word which is we are shown in front of you, which is known as the phloios, and which is meaning the birth. So this is what the working of the phloem. Hope you have understood the phloem. So let's move to the next slide. So this is we are starting with a new conception which is called the excretion. So this is the new concept which is done in this transportation part only. So this is a new conception which is important, which is very much important in the various life processes that is being occurring in each and every organism. So this is excretion. So what is excretion basically? Excretion is the substances which is excreted, the waste substances when it is being removed from our body. So that is basically what is excretion. So excretion, the process by which animals rid themselves of waste products of the nitrogenous byproducts of metabolism. Now through excretion, organisms used to control osmotic pressure, balance between the inorganic ions and the water, and maintain the acid-base balance. The process thus promotes the homeostasis, the constancy of the organism's internal environment. Now, there are various kinds of harmful substances which are also being produced as a waste product in our body itself. As the complex the organism becomes, the more various kinds of harmful substances also becomes produced, for which these products should be removed from the body. So, for which that life process is known as the excretion. Now, then every organism from the smallest protista, from the tiniest organism from protista to the large complex mammals, which is making the life process called the process excretion, and this must get rid itself of the potentially harmful byproducts of its own vital activities. Now, this process in living things is called the elimination. Now, this whole process in living things is basically called the elimination. The elimination of the various waste products which is being done now, which may be considered to encompass all of the forms disposed of or throw off waste products, organisms, or the toxic substances and dead portions of the organism. Now, this is only we have discussed now only that the more complex the organism becomes, the more toxic substances as waste products will be produced in its body. Now, the nature of the process and of the specialized structures developed or the waste and disposal vary greatly with the size and complexity of the organism. Nature and the process of the specialized nature structures. The organism which is a single cell, the excretion process will be different in that single cell organism. Now the organism which is multicellular and complex like human beings, that organism would be having a different process, different structure of disposing the waste out from its body. So this is the total conception of excretion. We have started with excretion as well in this lecture itself. Hope you have understood the excretion. Here is the basic diagram of the excretion that is being done in human beings. Hope you have understood the excretion. So let's move to the next slide. So how excretion is being occurring in human beings. So life of every organism depends on certain basic process. Excretion is one of them. So life process we have discussed in the earlier slide itself that one of the life process is excretion. Now excretion is different in other organisms. In different is very much excretion is a kind of process which is very much different. Like reproduction, it is different in each and every organism. Like excretion, it is also different in each and every organism. And in complex organisms, including humans, that is specialized system of the excretion in the human excretory system. Now, in our complex organisms like humans, there is a specialized system because harmful substances are being prepared. So those harmful substances needs those substances should be going through a specialized system for which they should be treated properly and they should be removed from the human body, and that is called the human excretory system. Now, we all obtain our nutrients from different sources which are later digested and metabolized in our body. Now, we also obtain different kinds of nutrition from different sources which are later digested within our and metabolized in our body itself. Now, after metabolic reactions, body starts to sort out useful and toxic substances. Now, the body used to take care of the various substances that is needed by the body and the substances which is not needed by the body. Like we have seen in the digestive system, the things which is not needed by our body, in the food itself, the things which are not needed by our body, it used to move through the rectum itself. So that is them in the excretion. That is only the excretion. So the body is used to sort it, so that substances are being removed and substances which are good are being absorbed. Now different organisms follow different modes of excretion, such as the organism like humans, they used to do by the substance parts of the body like kidney, lungs, skin and eyes. Now I discussed with how kidney used to remove waste products. Now kidney used to remove waste products like substances highly toxic substances like urea, nitrogen S. These are being released by kidney. Lungs used to remove the waste products called the famous thing, which is CO2, carbon dioxide. And then the skin used to remove the waste materials by the process called the by sweat. And the eyes used to drain the water. That is also a kind of excretion itself. Now, depending on their habitat and food habit. And this is done. Now, this is being in the in humans, but these are also being done in the other organisms. Now, these are the modes by which different organisms used to follow the excretion process. By these parts only different organisms used to do excretion, but they are also very much linked in the humans as well. Humans also do this from these parts. Humans also do excretion. Now, for example, aquatic animals used to excrete in the form of ammonia. Now, aquatic animals used to excrete waste in the form of ammonia, while birds and insects excrete mainly uric acid. Now, birds and insects mainly used to give out uric acid. Humans produce urea as a major excretory product. No, human beings also give out urea as a major excretory product. After that, there are nitrogenous waste and there are different kinds of waste. This is the total concept of excretion in human beings. What are being released? What is the function of the excretory and who are being engaged in the excretory systems? So we have understood about it. So let's move to the next slide. This is the detailed structure of the excretion in human beings. You can see in front of you. This is the blood vessels and then kidney and the caps of the kidney. This is the these pipes are the these vessels are basically these are the ureter is ball shape. This is the urinary bladder and this is the urethra by which the excretion occurs. So hope you've understood about the excretion in human beings. So let's move to the next slide. So various organs which are being very much engaged in the excretion in human beings. So the capsule, the outer layer is called the capsule. The inside the kidney, there are two zones. The first one is the outer zone, is the cortex, and the inner one is the medulla. Now there are two zones. The outer one is known as the cortex, and the inner one is basically known as the medulla. Now then the cortex used to extend in between the medullary pyramids as renal columns called the columns of Burdine. Now there are cortex is being extended to medullary pyramids which is being having as the renal columns and it is known as the columns of Burdine. Now this is the what capsule is. This is the basic definition of capsule. Hope you have understood the definition of the capsule. Now let's have knowing about nephrons. We have known about capsule. Now let's know about nephrons. Nephrons are the important units of the kidney. So each nephron has two parts. One is known as a glomerulus and one is known as the renal tubule. Now glomerulus consists of bunch of capillaries. A number of capillaries are used to being made up of glomerulus and which is being formed by afferent arterioles, and then the blood from the glomerulus is being carried away by different arterioles, efferent arterioles. This blood from the glomerulus is very much carried away by efferent arterioles. This blood is being carried away, and then the renal tubule starts from the cup-like structure called the Bowman's capsule, and this encloses the glomerulus. Now, this renal tubule starts with a cup-like structure which is known as the Bowman's capsule, and this enclosed the glomerulus and the Malpighian body consisting of glomerulus and Bowman's capsule. So this is what nephrons. We have also know about nephrons as well. Hope you have taken the screenshot of this slide as well. This is very much important from the exam point of view. We need to know the various organs of the excretion which are being engaged. Capsule is very much engaged in the process of excretion. Nephrons are being also being engaged in the process of excretion. We will be discussing about various organs in the following slides as well. So we have understood about this too. So let's move to the next slide. Take a snapshot of it. I am repeating as because these are very much important from the exam point of view. So it will be helping you. So take a snapshot of it. So this is the another one which is the Henle's loop. We will be discussing about Henle's loop, about the ureter around the urinary bladder. So the next part of the tubule, after the tubule, where the urine means where the waste production is going, it is going to the Henle's loop. Now, which has an ascending and a descending limb. So here is an ascending limb and a descending limb. Now the ascending loop continues a distal convoluted tubule, and the distal convoluted tubules of many nephrons open into the collecting duct. So these are being has been collected in a collecting duct. The cortical region of the kidney is comprising of Malpighian corpuscle and proximal convoluted tubule and the distal convoluted tubule in the medullary region containing a loop of Henle. Now, the cortical region of the kidney comprising of the Malpighian corpuscle and the proximal convoluted tubule and the distal convoluted tubule and the medullary region containing a loop of Henle. Now, this is what the Henle's loop is. So hope you have understood the Henle's loop. Take a snapshot of it. There is nothing to understand much. Just you need to take the concept of it. What is the working and what is the contribution of the organs in this excretion in human beings. Then you need to take the concept. Nothing too much you need to understand about it. So let's move to the next part, which is the next organ, which is the ureter. Now, what the ureter is doing? Now, the ureter is a pair of thin muscular tubes called the ureter, comes out and of each kidney extending from the renal pelvis. Now, they are been coming out and they are being extended to the renal pelvis. It is carrying the urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. Now, it is carrying the urine from the kidney directly to the urinary bladder. So this is the work of the ureter. We have been showing you the ureter image in the previous slide about the thin vessels that were being able to carry the urine from the uh, kidney to the directly to urinary bladder. Now, what urinary bladder is doing? This is the last part. So what is urinary bladder is doing? The urinary bladder is doing like which stores the urine, and in the process the urinary bladder is being emptied by the process of micturition in the act of urination. So when we use urine through our urethra, so on that cases the urinary bladder gets emptied. So this is the total concept of all the various organs are engaged in human beings. Hope you have understood about it. So let's move to the next slide. Hope you have taken the both the slides screenshots. They are very much important from the exam point of view. So this is the whole procedure in human beings. In detail, we will be discussing now. So the function of the various tubules are glomerulus filters the blood, and then the proximal convoluted tubules used to reabsorb the water, ions, nutrients. They remove the toxins and help in maintaining the ionic balance and pH of the body fluids by secretion of the potassium and then hydrogen and ammonia to filtrate the reabsorbing bicarbonate ions from the filtrate. Now, till now we have been discussing about the basic organs. We have been discussing how we have been knowing the organs, about the structures, about their contribution, about their role play. But now we will be discussing how the urine moves from glomerulus and to various places where the urine used to move away. So this is how it filters the blood. The glomerulus tries to filter the blood and absorb the water, ions, nutrients, and they used to remove the toxins and used to help in maintaining the ionic balance and pH of the body fluids by secretion of potassium, hydrogen, and ammonia. And they used to filtrate and reabsorb the bicarbonate ions from the filtrate itself. Now, descending loop of Henle, there are two kinds of loops. We have discussed in the Henle loop itself. One is descending loop, one is ascending loop. The descending loop, it is the permeable to water and filtrate the getting concentrated as it is a impermeable to electrolytes and is much impermeable. Not it is much impermeable, sorry, it is much permeable, that is ascending loop, but then it is the descending loop is very much permeable and they used to filter it and gets concentrated as it is impermeable to electrolytes. They are very much impermeable to electrolytes. Now then ascending loop, it is impermeable of water and permeable to electrolytes. The filtrate gets diluted due to the movement of electrolytes from the filtrate to the medullary fluid. Now it is used to take the permeable to the electrolytes and then the filtrate gets diluted due to the movement of electrolytes from the filtrate of the medullary fluid. Now this distal convoluted tubule, which is known as a DCT, also known as It allows the reabsorption of the water and sodium ions. Now then the reabsorption of the water also occurs and sodium ions, and for which it also helps to maintain the pH and ionic balance by secretion and reabsorption of the ions like PCB. Now if something has been released by the, if something important, if there is something important which has been released with the by the ascending loop of the Henle and the descending loop of Henle, then the distal convoluted tube again checks about it, and then is if there is a reabsorption of ions like PCT, if there is there, then is to take out, and then it sends the collecting duct, and the large amount of water is being reabsorbed and filtered by the collecting duct. And this collecting ion used to collect the total large amount of water, and they used to then after this process they used to release. There is a whole procedure of the excretion in human beings. In detail we have been discussed. We till now we have been discussing with the organs. We have been going and we have been have a basic conception about the organs. Now we have discussed step by step about the procedure of the excretion. Hope you have understood about that occurring in the human beings. So let's move to the next slide. Take a snapshot of it. It will be very much important from the exam point of view as well. So artificial kidney. Some people used to lose their kidney. Disease used to occur in those kidneys, for which people used to do use the artificial kidney, but then the kind of parts given in our body by nature are the best one. Using any kind of scientific methods to help us, to help or helping us, will be resulting in these things. One is coma and one is death. So we need to take care of the parts that is being donated by us by the nature. We need to take care of each and every part of our body. We should not do any kind of carelessness while with each and every part of our body. So that major or very harmful disease used to occur over those places, and for which it gets totally becomes damaged, totally gets destructed. So we need to take care of these things. And so let's know about artificial kidney. So artificial kidney can filter 100 to 150 quarts of blood every day. So about 100 to 150 quarts of blood the kidney used to filter each and every day. Now, if the kidneys are not functioning properly, if the kidneys are unable to give out the waste, if the urea, which is the important component of the excretion presenting in our body, and if that particular substances is not able to be excreted, if it is getting stored day after day, time after time, then that will occur when this thing, one is coma and one is death. But then we would be getting a help by a process called dialysis, but that also is very much minimal. If the patient whose kidneys are blocked or damaged, and if there are any kind of other problems in the patient as well, if it is unable to take the process called dialysis, then after some period of time that person will also be getting died after getting the help from artificial kidney as well. Sometimes artificial kidneys becomes once the patients, if they are not able to take the scientific methods, then there is an obvious situation. So nevertheless, to cure this patient, they is subjected to dialysis. So we need to take the dialysis help. Then dialysis maintains the body balance to the following ways. It controls the blood pressure. It tries to control the blood pressure. It removes the excess water and metabolic waste from the body. It, it removes the excess water and the metabolic waste which is being released from our body. And it prevents the chemicals such as potassium, bicarbonate, sodium from reaching hazardous levels. It also tries to take care of the chemicals like potassium, bicarbonate, sodium reaching to its hazardous levels. And dialysis is used for people with a critical kidney disorder, grave kidney damage, previously severe renal failure. These are the kind of problems that has been shown, that has been founded in the people for which they are being taking the help of dialysis, and it is been required when the kidney loses 90% of its efficiency. Now if the kidney has lost is 90% of its efficiency, 90% of its best facilities that has been got from the kidney by a human being, If all these facilities have been lost from the kidney itself, then it's has a glomerular filtration rate of less than 15. If it had also gone from the glomerular filtration, the level of its filtration, if it has gone less than 15, the treatment may continue for months or years since most kidney failures are irreversible. Then this treatment continue for months or years since most kidney failures are irreversible. Kidney failures cannot be reversed by any kinds of operation. So this is the major problem. So we need to take care of the kidney. From today itself, we should take care of our kidney. If any kinds of, but then some people used to bond with diseases itself. But in those cases, we cannot tell anything because they are simply naturally occurring, and that simply nature knows about it. But then they are being helped with this artificial kidney called dialysis. But then the life expectancy of those people gets having a shortened life expectancy. They doesn't to be means they doesn't to be living on this earth for a number of time. Means a long time they cannot live. But then there are some people, there are some exceptions in all cases. In this case also there is an exception. Some people used to live by using the artificial kidney for a high life expectancy as well. So hope you have understood the artificial kidney. We have discussed about the usage, about the workings of the artificial kidney, how it works with in a person we have which is having a disorder in their kidney and or critically the kidney has been damaged. So hope you have understood the artificial kidney. So let's move to the next slide. So how excretion occurs in plants. So till now we have discussed with the human beings, and then we have been discussing with the animals as well in the first slide, and then we have discussed the artificial kidney. Now we are going to start with the excretion in plants. So elimination of toxic. Now toxic and waste products are also being prepared in the plants as well. So the elimination of those toxic and waste products are known as excretion. And now organisms like animals have an advanced and specialized system for excretion. Like us, we have a specialized system and have an advanced system for excretion. But then plants doesn't have any kinds of well-developed or specialized system for their excretion like us. So they do not have special organs for excretion. Like we have kidney, glomerulus, then we have renal, advanced loops, renal loop. So these kind of parts the plants not have. So they doesn't have any kind of special organs. But then the excretion is also not so much complex like human beings as they doesn't have so much special organs, and that's why it is very much simple conception. We need to get we will be getting a very simple conception from the excretion and plants, which is the last part of the chapter. Now, excretory products of the plants from excretion, the cellular respiration, photosynthesis, and other metabolic reactions produce a lot of excretory products in plants. Now, the cellular respiration used and photosynthesis and other metabolic reactions used to produce a lot of excretory products in plants. And carbon dioxide, excess water is being produced during respiration, and nitrogenous compounds produced during protein and metabolism are the major excretory products in plants. So these are the excretory products that is being produced by plants from excretion, substances like carbon dioxide, excess water, nitrogenous compounds. So these are the major excretory products in plants. So this is the whole concept of excretion. Very, very simple concept. Hope you have understood about it. Take a snapshot of it. It will be helping in your exam point of view as well. So let's move to the next slide. Hope you have understood about the excretion in plants as well. So thank you for watching this video. Hope all your concepts are simply crystal clear from this part of the chapter. If you have any doubt, mention it in the comment section below from this part as well as from the previous lectures that we have discussed till now from this chapter. So like the video, we take a lot of efforts to prepare this video. So like the videos, subscribe the channel and press the bell icon to get the regular updates and share the video with each and everyone around you, with your friends as well as with the students who are in need of studies in this lockdown periods, in this crisis of our country. So try to share this video with those people as well. So stay tuned and till practice till the next conceptual video comes up. So till then,